1:18 p.m. Daylight Savings Time. Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia, continuing the subject of ignorance. Now, ignorance is something that we run into all the time. It's something we experience and have ourselves. But in this talk, I want to explain to you how ignorance is something that is birthed out of usually hurts and pains, and is often not something that's deliberate. There are people that drift off when you're speaking to them and they seem very rude, or they're preoccupied, they've got their mind on other things, they don't have time to talk. But to you at that time, it was important for you to say what you wanted to say, and it was missed and ignored and overlooked and even blatantly just pushed away. And it comes down to character and maturity to measure whether it's a legitimate lack of listening or not. Now, you could take this in all directions. You could take it as in the area of, oh, it was a simple mistake, or you could go all the way to narcissism if you wanted. Narcissistic people just only hear what they really want to hear that's going to help them construct the construct that they need to practice their narcissism, as it were. But softening it a bit, let's just look at a scripture that I found here. A fool finds pleasure in wicked schemes. In other words, somebody that can be recognized as a fool when they're not learning from the things that have harmed them and other people around them, the harm they've done to themselves and the harm they've caused to others. That's called a fool. When people aren't maturing and their character developing via the consequences of their harm, or the harm that it's brought to others, as I mentioned. But a person of understanding delights in wisdom. So the fool is not only devoid of wisdom, he's devoid of understanding, because knowledge without understanding cannot bring wisdom. Knowledge with understanding doesn't always produce wisdom, but it gives you the availability then to know what is the right way or the wrong way, and then it's up to you to choose. But even for some people, with all the psychological issues and things and substances that people take today, sometimes with the knowledge and the understanding, the wrong path's chosen as well. If a person goes to court with a fool, the fool rages, scoffs, and there is no peace. Now, some people are never going to allow you to have peace. They're just not. For whatever the reason is, it might be a minor resentment. It might be a minor bitterness. It could be a major root of bitterness deep inside the heart. But if I could give you an example, if I may, I don't usually go down the psychological path, but on this topic of ignorance and the rudeness of it, I want to just bring out a few points. I remember when I was a minister, I had a lady come in and she wanted to talk about a husband who was quite a nice man. He was a very quiet-spoken man. Obviously, she was tired of him and she was trying to find a way out of the marriage, and she told me that he was ignorant. So I said, oh, well, at the end of it, I said, leave it with me, and I asked to see the husband. So I spoke to the husband. He wasn't ignorant at all. He was a very intelligent man. I could see that he wasn't putting on a facade. He was very quiet, humble. But she'd come to the point where she was tired of the bloke and didn't want to find a place of resolve, of recapitulating the relationship. She'd come to that place where she'd had enough. So I called them both in, and sure enough, within, I'd say 5 minutes, this woman's screaming at him and yelling at him, and he's just sitting there, and it got quite nasty. I had to pull it back into line, and I said to this woman, have you ignored everything I've said? And she stepped back. She took a step back. She nearly fell back. It shocked her. I said, have you ignored because she was standing over the man. I said, excuse me, have you ignored everything I've said? And she stepped back and shook off what I said, and she was going to start again. And I said, you please need to sit down. You need to sit down. So she sat down on the edge of the seat, not comfortably in the back of the seat. The posture was aggressive. And I said to her, the problem's not that your husband's ignorant. The problem is that you're not listening. You're not listening to anybody else's needs that are around you except your own. You're only hearing yourself. You're only judging your exterior by what's happening on your interior. She wasn't connecting, whilst present, with the deeper things of the people that were around her. Therefore, she was missing out on the content that she needed emotionally and intellectually and possibly physically, because when you're not connecting with someone emotionally, usually the intimacy of the physical connection goes away anyway. And she was so self-centered on herself that she'd missed the whole point of what was happening in the people around her, the needs of the people around her. And in this case, it was the husband who was completely worn out. And she was worn out as well, because that's what this does. The fool rages and scoffs and there is no peace. Well, this woman was trying to build a smear campaign against her husband. Oh, he's done this, he's done that. Wherever she went, she whinged about her husband, and she got a group of people around her that would help her whinge, and they'd all whinge together, and they were destroying their marriages with their mouths, and the mouth's got so much power. In fact, if we do this, if we type in this, we come to Proverbs 18:21, which says, here it comes, life and death. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Now, the love it there means if you've got two ways to go. You can go down the path of life with your tongue. You can go down the path of death with your tongue. You can go down the path of both. Sometimes people are positive when they speak. Other times they're negative because they're running on the way they feel rather than helping themselves to develop in a way that's going to help them to be able to navigate their tongue in a fruitful way where it's not bringing, at least not bringing death. Cursed words and silly comments. In Proverbs 10:19 it says, when words are many, sin is unavoidable, but he who restrains his lips is wise. Now, sometimes when people don't speak, it can be quite agitating because there is a time where you need to speak and get things resolved and things sorted out and all the rest of it. And then there's times where you need to sit and listen and absorb properly, because what ignorance does, it doesn't absorb anything. And the speaker can tell that the listener isn't listening. The speaker can tell when the listener isn't listening. And therefore, that's what causes the irritation and the frustrations. I mean, if somebody's not willing to listen, as long as it's what we're trying to get to is a constructive point, then it's fruitless talking to that person. It's the old comment, isn't it? It's like speaking to a brick wall. Another translation of that verse, let's look at something different. Let's just go with Daré Romain, whatever that is, the Dow Remains Bible. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. They that love it shall eat it, the fruits thereof. So you can either speak life or you can speak death. The power is in your tongue. So, what's my point today? Not listening clearly is rude. You might be in a marriage right now where you've had enough. I've just got to pause this. He who guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from distress. Now, this is a really interesting point because the way we use our words, right, and the words that we hear people speak and the words that people hear us speak are going to help us determine what sort of character that we're dealing with. Not that we're trying to critique people and judge people and all this sort of thing, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty and the bottom line of things, see, if you get caught up with this one, where was it? The one that can't bring peace. See, an evil man is trapped by his rebellious speech, but a righteous man escapes from trouble. Some people you're just not going to resolve anything with. Some people there is no resolve. And this is what makes it difficult, because there's no need for a lot of conflict in most cases, but the different tunes of the soul, the different conditions of people's souls, and whether they mesh or conflict or whatever's going on, causes these things to take place. But it's usually recognized by people's words. So getting back to that man and woman, they ended up divorcing. In the end, he left her. He couldn't take it anymore. She wasn't going to find a resolve. I think she had several relationships. The last thing I heard after a marriage was that things weren't going real good for her, unfortunately, and I think the man stayed single after that. I lost contact because I got out of the ministry, but it was a very ugly and bitter situation that was never going to be resolved. So ignorance has different aspects. It's one of the strongest words for sin in the Hebrew language. We might look at that in the next talk. It's a very powerful thing, and it's multi-dimensional. And people don't realize this. Ignorance is a multi-dimensional emotional issue, that's a problem that could be likened to cancer in a way, because it filters out into so many different things. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now. Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.